This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7:02 p.m. and the date is November 10th, 2009. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates, the alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Present tonight are 3 voting members, Betty Hollow, Michelle Gerbil, and Joan Pernansky, and 2 alternates, Lisa Carson and myself, Kay Towsley. I am serving as the chair, and Lisa and I will be voting members tonight. Also present are Zoning Administrator John Paskey and Secretary Paul Eschenbacher. The board operates according to the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard, followed by anyone wishing to speak in general comment, followed by those wishing to speak in opposition. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor will be closed, and the board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 230703B, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, the spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 230910C, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board finds, based on direct specific findings of fact, that each of the following conditions has been supported. 1. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. 2. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. 3. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellants of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. 4. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. 5. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. 6. Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident or officer, department or appointed body of the City of Athens aggrieved by a decision of the board may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant. Tonight we have 3 cases on the agenda. Case 0923V, Michael and Carolyn Sweeney, appellants. Case 0924V, Jim Thomas from Panachin Knoll Associates, appellant. And Case 0925V, David Full, appellant. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak concerning any item on the agenda please stand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. We will start with case 0923V, the first case on the agenda. This is for a property at 156 East State Street, Zone R1, Michael and Carolyn Sweeney appellants. The appellants are requesting variances from Section 2310, Table A, Schedule of Bulk Controls, to allow the construction of an attached deck with a rear setback of 7 feet, where 30 feet is the minimum requirement, and for lot coverage of 53%, where 30% is the maximum requirement. I'll call on Mr. Eschenbacher for anything you might have to say.
Thank you. First off, since I'm unfamiliar with them, are the Sweeneys here tonight? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure of that. Their variance request is pretty straightforward if you've read the information in the folder. You simply wish to replace their rear deck, which also serves as the roof for their carport, and a retaining wall there. So if you had any questions.
I guess we could ask this to the appellants, but what exactly what are the dimensions of the existing deck?
I measured based on the auditor's sketch of the site, and the rear deck is, as best as I can tell, approximately about 450 square feet. I'm sure the Sweeneys will have more specific dimensions as to width and depth.
Okay, and if there were no deck there, what would the rear setback be?
The rear setback, they would, if I remember looking at the sketch correctly, I think the depth of the deck was 21 feet, if I remember correctly. So I would think that they would have a rear setback of about 28 feet. If they have a copy of the sketch there. Depth, yeah. Oh, the number is pretty good. It's actually, the depth of it is 23 feet. So if they had nothing on the back of the house there, they would have a 30-foot setback.
They would have a 30-foot setback?
Without the deck, yes, as best I can tell from this.
Okay, so they would comply if there were no deck at all?
If there were no deck at all.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Eschenbacher? All right, thank you. I would now like to call on the appellant, one or both, to come and testify.
Do you want us up here?
Could you come to the podium over here?
Thank you.
And just state your name and where you live, please.
My name is Mike Sweeney, and this is my wife, Carolyn. We moved here in July so I could take a job as a professor at Ohio University. We bought the house at 156 East State for a variety of reasons. It's a wonderful old house, and it's within walking distance of campus. It had an existing deck, which is, as they said, the roof of the carport. And we noticed when we were in negotiations to buy the house that there were some safety issues involved with the deck and with the retaining walls that support it. There's one that runs parallel to the back of the lot and one that runs perpendicular to it that form the supports for two of the edges of the deck. And I'd like to give you some photographs to help illustrate what I'm talking about. Okay, my wife will bring them up. The retaining wall at the back side of the lot, the wall that runs parallel to the back of the house, has a horizontal crack in its cinder block construction, which is approximately 8 feet long. It's also bowing slightly from the weight of the earth that it's holding in place up above us on the hill. We're concerned that if that retaining wall is not replaced, and we're looking at the possibility of having a poured concrete wall to replace it, that it will become a safety hazard. In worst case scenario, the collapse of the overhead deck onto what is now the space where we put our car and have our dog pen, a kennel where we keep our dogs outside when we leave. The deck itself, we don't know how old it is. We know that it predates the previous owner, who I believe bought the house in 1994. It is wood and has not been kept up as well as it should be. So the day that my wife and I did the first inspection of the property, she put her foot through a board, which I've taken a picture of there. So the main issue here for me is safety, to replace the bowing retaining wall and to replace the deck. There are also elements involved, I suppose, of aesthetics. The existing deck is not the prettiest thing in the world, and we'd like to do a first-class job of replacing it. We're looking at probably a price tag of about $22,000 to put something in that's either wood that we would treat and upkeep or some synthetic version of wood that would look more in keeping with the neighborhood. We also have some documents here I'd like to share with you from our neighbors. We ran around and got letters from people on all sides of us on the north side of State Street and asked if they would support us replacing the current retaining wall and deck. And everyone we asked said yes, so you have all of those letters. The size of the deck we know is larger than what is zoned. If there were no deck there, it would, at least in my way of thinking, pose a hardship, because then we would just have this open carport area, which is not really usable space, except for, we wouldn't have a backyard, in other words. The size of the deck, it makes logical sense to me to have the size as it is now because it rests on two existing retaining walls. The width of the deck, we have one of those houses that has an unusual shaped footprint. It's like, add-on rectangle. This is the narrowest slice of the house in back. And there are a door and two windows on that deck, so there's not really a lot of room to try to come in on the sides without compromising those windows with a deck rail. So basically what we would like to do is replace existing structures with structures that have the same footprint, the same size, but are A, safe, and B, more aesthetic.
So what is the size of the deck now?
He has it.
We have to go with what he has.
Okay.
Here, I'll show you. The approximate size of the deck is, the depth is 23 feet and the width is 22.
Okay.
Basically the size of two cars side by side,
Right.
pretty
All
much.
right. True.
And it is behind the house, so you don't see it from the street. You would see it from either our neighbor on either side or from the houses on the hill up above us.
Is there a house directly behind you on Franklin,
Yes.
Up higher, yes.
up higher on the hill?
Yeah, we got to see it when the leaves finally fell.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
One question about the actual retaining wall. That retaining wall that is supporting the current deck also runs, if I'm not mistaken, if you're facing the back, it runs all the way to the right, almost into the next property or into the next
It
property.
does.
It does.
So that's actually supporting that ground behind there so that you can utilize the driveway.
Right. It's a step down, though, so the retaining wall on
Right.
our property is about
It's higher and then
8
it goes
feet,
down.
9 feet, and when it gets over to the property, which is a rental to the east side of us, it steps down to 4 feet, 3 feet, and then it kind of peters out. That portion of the retaining wall is not cracked.
Are they tied? But it is one continuous...
Right. We've made approaches to the owner of that rental property about whether he'd like to have that portion of the retaining wall replaced as well, and he hasn't responded.
So
But
how
he
would
has, you do have his signature on the
Yeah.
approval. That's Dan DeLuca's
Right.
address.
So would you tie into his portion of the wall so that's to stabilize your portion of the wall, which is going to then support the roof of your carport and your deck?
I don't believe, I don't know that it's necessary to tie in. Certainly, we have no problems if he wants to, pay and, pay part of it and we all go all the way over. That would be the optimum thing. But I don't think that when we pour a concrete wall that it's going to, this is going to be needed to stabilize ours. We'll go far enough over.
Okay.
We'll go to the edge, yeah.
Any other questions?
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this variance? Anyone wishing to make general comments or speak in opposition? Okay. In that case, testimony from the floor is closed and the board will discuss the case. Can someone make a motion on the case?
Sure. I move that we grant a variance to the property at 156 East State Street from Section 2310, Table A, Schedule of Bulk Controls, to allow the construction of an attached deck with a rear setback of 7 feet where 30 feet is the minimum requirement, and for lot coverage of 53%, where 30% is the maximum requirement, with the provision that this new construction not exceed the current footprint of the walls and structure.
A second.
Okay. We will now go on to discuss each of the 6 conditions, beginning with difficulty and hardship. Will there be a practical difficulty or undue hardship caused by exceptional conditions pertaining to the specific piece of property if this variance is not granted?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say yes, that there will be a problem. Because it looks like they already have damage with the bowed wall and the rotting deck.
Well, presumably they could just tear it all down.
They
just
could
park
tear it all
cars
down.
behind.
They could do that, but I think that might take away from their living space that they have currently. I worry about the water. There might be more water there. That deck probably provides some coverage
For their cars.
but also all the cement and everything that's under there.
Let me just ask one question for Mr. Eschenbacher. Is this lot a particularly small lot or narrow, or do you know the size of the lot?
It's smaller than the current requirements for new lots.
Sure.
I'll put it that way, but it's not that unusual from other lots along that length of
Okay.
East State Street on that side.
But there is a lot of cement there for runoff of, with the 2 driveways where they come
Yeah.
up and,
Well, the way that hill is situated in terms of practical difficulty of the property, it's fairly steep.
Right.
It would maybe advantageous to have a retaining wall with drainage in the first place, just to make it more of a livable space and to maintain the flat spot of the house. So in the sense that you almost need to do that anyways, you're already utilizing the space. So I think to a certain extent there's some practical difficulty with the property.
Okay.
By the way, the specific dimensions, I forgot I had this thing here. It's 48 by 90.
So it's a little bit smaller, even for that
It's not
neighborhood.
that much narrower than what's the minimum requirement, but it is shorter.
Right, because a lot of those lots would be 50 by 100 maybe,
Yeah,
a little bit bigger.
and then there's a hill, right?
Sure,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Okay, anything else
Okay.
on that? All right, second condition, exceptional circumstances. Are there exceptional circumstances applying to the property or its intended use that do not in general apply to properties in the same zone?
Well, it probably is not terribly much smaller than other lots in the neighborhood, but at 48 by 90, I expect it is a little bit smaller even than those small lots in the neighborhood.
Yep, I think that's so.
Yes.
Anything else? All right. 3, preservation of equal property rights. Would denying the variance deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same vicinity, and would granting the variance convey special privileges to the appellant denied to others in the same vicinity?
Well, I don't think it's special privilege. If you walk up the side Brick Street and you look down through the backyards, everybody is back. All the buildings seem to be almost butting up to each other.
Right.
So I don't think, even though this is under old code, it would not be special privilege in that particular area, because that particular area seems to have a tendency to do that.
Well, this is a very old part of town, really. There are houses in the neighborhood that were built before 1900. This is not one of them. But this house was probably built around the turn of the century, and that's why these houses are typically close together and have relatively small lots.
Okay. 4th one, minimum variance. Is the requested variance the minimum required to make possible the reasonable use of the property?
I think so.
Because?
It does.
I have a prejudice on behalf of their being able to replace the current structure. I don't know why we should stand in the way of that.
I agree with that.
If they're just going to have exactly the same thing they had before, and they're actually having one structure to serve for the deck and the garage, so that seems rather efficient.
I agree. And absence of detriment. Will granting the variance be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties or impair the purposes of the zoning code? I don't think so. We have lots of signatures from the neighbors attesting to their support, so that seems okay. And lastly, not of a general nature, is the requested variance of such a general or recurring nature that the situation would be more reasonably handled by changing the law? No, we don't get many of these kinds of requests. Anything anyone would like to say before we vote? Okay, then let us start voting. Joan, at your end.
I vote for the variance.
Okay.
Yes.
I vote yes.
Yes. Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion is approved 5-1, and the variance is granted. Thank you. Our second...
Welcome to Athens.
Yeah. Exactly. Our second case is case 0924B, 184 Longview Heights Road, Zone R1. Jim Thomas of Panacea Knoll Architects, appellant representing the Unitarian Universal Fellowship. The appellant is requesting a variance from Section 230805C to allow expansion of a parking lot from 22 spaces to 39 spaces without paving or marking the lot, where paving and marking the parking lot is the minimum requirement. Mr. Eschenbacher?
Okay, again, it's pretty straightforward here. By reconfiguring their current parking lot, they want to put in more parking spaces for make it easier for their attendants. The one thing I wanted to bring up in the letter that was presented to the board in your information packet from Panacea Knoll, the one that's dated September 11th, they make reference to stripping the parking lot. I believe what they meant was striping the parking lot.
Yes.
Just
Striping or
I mean,
gravel?
it's not only a
Right.
requirement that you pave a parking lot over 4 spaces, you're supposed to mark it as well.
okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Eschenbacher? All right.
I would like to add that they did go through Shade Tree and did receive approval on that as well,
With whom?
through the Shade Tree Commission.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So they're going to be removing these trees, or?
The ones in the island in the middle of the parking lot, yes. There's, I think, 3 or 4 there that they're taking out.
Okay.
And the tree commission said they were okay with that?
Yes.
All right, could the appellant, Jim Thomas, please come to the podium? And Mr. Thomas, if you would state your name and place of residence, please.
My name is Jim Thomas with Panacea Knoll Architects. I'll be representing the fellowship tonight. I have a sketch and picture of the existing. You might have some copies of this.
Okay, thank you. Ooh.
This is the existing parking lot.
Yeah.
Basically, the parking lot right now is a stone-paved parking lot
Yes,
with a one-way angled parking with an island in the middle. The fellowship needs to increase their parking for when they have large gatherings so that the parking doesn't go out into the street and to neighbors' areas. Basically, what we're proposing is taking the island out and reconfiguring the parking in the same area so that they can get more vehicles in that space. Basically, there'll be some regrading and then some resurfacing with crushed limestone. Also involved in this is putting in 2 concrete paved handicap parking spaces and a handicap sidewalk down to the first level of the building.
Any questions for Mr. Thomas?
One question. I was wondering if the parking area as you're entering from Longview Heights on the right, is it extended out more towards the entrance than it was in the past?
The parking area itself?
Correct. So
It's actually narrower there now.
Well, what I'm referring to is not whether this entrance, I don't know if you can see this, is more narrow, but whether you've extended the parking out more towards the street than it was in the past.
I believe it is just basically based on how the island went out through there. I don't think there was capable of parking right there at the edge. The fellowship may be able to answer that better than
I have counted 29 cars in the existing parking area, but at the entrance and exit, it sometimes can be difficult to get around the last car to park.
Excuse me,
And-
we really want to hear what you have to say, but I'm going to have to ask you to come to the podium and test.
Oh, certainly.
Yep. Do you mind?
Oh, no, that's
Okay.
no problem.
Did he swear?
I'll ask him.
My concern primarily is with visibility. I mean, we're taking down some trees in the center. It is a lovely area. I've been out there many times myself. But visibility from the street, if we're exposing the parking lot to more visibility from the street, is really what my question is based on.
I don't know that we would be. There's a bit of a drop there, and it's below the roadway. So I don't know that parking would be that much more noticeable, especially I would suspect that those spaces would be last to be parked in, when there was a large amount of people. I think in those same circumstances, maybe what you were talking about was parking was clear out through the street anyways.
Well, not to the street.
Oh, excuse me, before you begin,
Yes.
did you swear to your testimony being truthful? Were you one of the standers at the beginning?
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
And
I-
very good. And do you mind
I-
stating your name and address?
Yes, I don't think...
But before
think
you begin, just who are you and where do you live?
I'm Frank Myers.
Thank you.
And I live in the city of Athens at 43 Stroud's Run Road, which is over the hill at the top of Cable Lane.
Okay.
And I've been a member of the Unitarian Fellowship about 10 years now. And I count things. And twice I have counted 29 cars in the parking lot. I believe it's impossible under existing conditions for us to get more in there. Our professionals tell us that we will be able to get more in. And when we've got 29 in there, very disorderly, very messy, which upsets me. I think it'll look better from anywhere in the future after we modify it appropriately than it does now. Sometimes it looks like nobody cares how it looks.
All right. Thank you. And Joan, did you...
I had another question regarding, it looks to me like you've got a grade there. This high end is a little bit higher than this end down here. So when in your grading, I'm thinking of runoff and that kind of thing.
Right. It'll all be basically the water will be sheet drained to the same areas as it has been already.
Okay.
Right. But basically, we're going to have a straight slope across there now, where we have a little bit of a step down where the island is.
All right.
We've had a problem.
With the drainage.
We've got flat spots and potholes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Thomas?
Well, I guess one thing I would ask is, since you're asking for it not to be paved and not to be striped, how are people going to know just exactly where they're supposed to go?
Well, that's the problem with stone paving, is that you can't. I've seen them mark them before with timbers and different things, and it works for a while sometimes. But basically, we're trying to create the space. Most of these people, or most of the people that will be coming here to park, hopefully will be coming regularly, so that they'll have an idea of where to park and how to get the full benefit of the parking area. Obviously, if this was for some business where people were coming in and out all the time, it would be very difficult to to maintain that. But I believe once they've used it a few times that they could take full advantage of the parking spaces.
Well, I would also ask you, since you are saying that the reason to leave the stone is because paving it would be cost prohibitive, I'm wondering how much it would cost you to pave it.
I have not gotten any prices for that. We have gotten a price for doing the alterations that we have proposed, but I have not received any bids for that. So at this point I couldn't say.
Then how can you be sure it's cost prohibitive if you don't know how much it costs?
Well, basically, from what I was told, that the amount that the initial work was basically what was in their budget to do something. So that if it exceeded that by too much, then basically it would leave it the way it was.
Sure, okay.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the variance, in general comment, or in opposition? Okay, in that case, testimony from the floor is closed, and we will deliberate, starting with a motion. If someone would make one, please.
I move that we consider case number 09-24V, represented by Jim Thompson, Panish and Knoll Architects, for property located at 184 Longview Heights Road, for request for variance from section 23.08.05C to allow expansion of a parking lot from 22 spaces to 39 spaces without paving or marking the lot, where paving and marking the parking lot is the minimum requirement.
Second.
Second, thank you, Lisa. All right, addressing first the difficulty and hardship issue. Will there be a practical difficulty or undue hardship caused by exceptional conditions pertaining to this piece of property if the variance is not granted?
Well, I think perhaps in terms of water runoff and water buildup, I think because it's already a sloped area, I think that it would be better because of the lay of the land to use gravel rather than a permanent surface. So that the building itself is then located at a level below that, at least the basement, and some of the other recreational areas. So it would be better for the water to drain through in such a large area rather than have it running off and possibly causing some damage to the river.
Well, and since the area that they are going to have when they finish is really not much,
It's not out of the
any
footprint.
larger. It's the same footprint. They will, there'll be some dirt and grass that's gone, but essentially the area will be the same. So
Which
it's
is
not really going to
gravel.
be very much different.
Good point. All right, exceptional circumstances. Are there exceptional circumstances applying to the property or its use that don't apply generally to properties in the same zone?
Well, in terms of its use, this is a gathering place that has limited use. It's on Sundays and other sort of special occasions, but it's not as if this is a parking lot that is in use every single day. So I don't know why that makes a difference to me, but it does.
Well, also, I don't think, and we talked about this, requires that the striping is absolutely necessary because you're not trying to determine exactly how many people park there.
Sure.
But what we want to do is they're going to control themselves more or less. So I think that's not really an issue here.
Not so much.
Okay. Preservation of equal property rights. Would denying the variance deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others? And conversely, would granting the variance convey special privileges to the appellant denied to others in the same vicinity?
Well, probably this is the only establishment of its sort on that strip, so it's not really a comparable kind of a thing.
And they're staying pretty much in the footprint. It's not like they're changing the the lay of the land up there. And that's a difficult site. It's on a hill. There's a lot of issues with the site, which I assume everyone in that area has that difficulty up there.
Okay. Minimum variance, is it the minimum required to make possible the reasonable use of the property?
Well, I would say yes, because if the membership is large enough for them to now have them to park along the side of Longview Heights, I think it would be better to get cars off of Longview Heights, which is not really designed for people to park along it.
Not at all.
Safe.
Yeah.
It would be safer to do that.
Okay. Absence of detriment. Will granting the variance be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties or impair the purposes of the zoning code?
I think it improves from what we just discussed in terms of safety issues, and certainly doesn't impair. Unless they would have a question with increased traffic, but apparently that's not, they just really want to make it a safer situation.
Okay, and lastly, not of a general nature, is the requested variance of such a general or recurring nature that the situation would be more reasonably handled by changing the law?
No.
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 This is pretty unique. Okay, ready to take a vote, and we'll start on my right.
Yes.
Michelle, yes. Betty?
Yes.
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 And yes, 5 yeses, so the variance is granted. The motion is approved. Thank you. And on to our last case. Case 0925V, 19 South Court Street, Zone B2D, David Full Appellant.
Mr. Thomas.
Oh, Mr. Thomas? A lot of congratulations. Would you like your meeting material back? Excuse me. Yes.
Oh,
That
yes.
was the prior one, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, case 0925V, 19 South Court Street, Zone B2D, David Full Appellant. The appellant is requesting a variance from Section 230801D to allow the change of use of a building from 1 rental unit with 2 tenants to 2 units with a total of 6 tenants, to have 0 on-site parking spaces, 2 deed-restricted parking spaces within 250 feet of the property, and 4 leased parking spaces within 510 feet of the property, where 6 on-site parking spaces or 6 deed-restricted parking spaces in same ownership and within 250 feet of the property are the minimum requirements. Mr. Eschenbacher, please.
Again, it's fairly straightforward. He just wants to put in 2 apartments where there is 1, and he has no on-site parking whatsoever there. It's the area above the Hocking Valley Bank branch there on Court Street. He owns the parking lot across the street behind 16 and 18 South Court, approximately where Jimmy John's is, back behind there. We've checked, and there are adequate spaces to take care of this and the existing parking requirements at his apartments at 16 and 18 South Court.
So has he been leasing those spots? He would just be making sure that his tenants
Back
use
behind 16 and 18, I'm not sure what he's been using for. He has to have a minimum number of them available for the tenants.
All right.
But we aren't going to necessarily know if the tenants are using them unless the tenants come to us and complain that Mr. Full wasn't allowing them to use them.
Right.
At that point, we can check. The only other thing I wanted to put out is sort of a technical thing about the variance, the way I phrased it. And you, Ms. Hall, and a couple others have handled leased parking requests before. Once you okay a variance for leased parking, there's no requirement about the distance. In other words, there's nothing that in the code book that says anything about how far away leased parking is supposed to be. However, of course, you've always used distance as a measurement of whether this is, for instance, a minimum variance or not. 510 feet as opposed to 2,000 feet or something like that. So if you grant the variance, there's no variance for the distance, just the fact that it's leased. However, you can make it a condition that it can't be any further than 510 feet, or as you've done in the past, I believe you can make it a condition to use a specific parking lot as the leased area. But
Okay.
if you have any other questions, or any questions.
Any questions?
Previously, the two tenants that were occupying that apartment building, the apartment in that building, did they have spots?
No. That had been an apartment for so long, it was grandfathered.
Grandfathered?
Yeah.
But he loses that grandfathering with this change.
That's right. So he has to go from 0 to 6.
Okay, but he does have a parking lot.
Yeah, across the street.
So how are we to identify, is that his, does he own all the spots in that parking lot? I noticed some of them were numbered 1 through 12, and then there was no numbering. One of those in the numbered was actually blocking 2 cars. So I'm wondering who controls those parking lots in the back that are private?
Mr. Full does.
But the code definitely has regulations on,
The minimum number of parking spots that are supposed to be there available for the tenants at 16 and 18 South Court.
But presumably, if he owns his parking lot, he could change his leasing arrangements with other people and provide all of the parking in his lot across the street.
Well, I think all the parking spots, other than the 2 that he's requesting, are necessary for 16 and 18. He doesn't have any extra parking other than those 2 spots.
There's 14 spots back there.
And 12, there's a minimum of 12 required for 16 and 18. So he has 2 extra spots that he can...
Okay, and 16 and 18 are properties that he already owns.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's already using up his own parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would have to deed 2 of them to this
Okay.
new use.
Okay, and he has the
Which
2,
is-
but he doesn't have the 4.
That 4 others, yeah.
so my question, my unanswered question is, does the code office regulate the size of parking places in private parking areas?
Yes.
What
Or
is-
check them anyway. yeah.
What is the minimum width of a parking?
9 feet.
9 foot.
And minimum area of 180 square feet. So if it's 9 feet wide, it has to be 20 feet long.
9 feet wide. Have you measured those parking places back there lately?
I haven't, but...
I walked them off. A couple of them looked like they were about 6 feet wide. I mean, there was one of the small compact cars in there, and there was not even a foot between it and the next car, and there was no other room. So I'm just curious that we're packing extra vehicles in there when maybe that parking lot does not even meet regulations.
Well, if that's so, it's also grandfathered. So in other words, I'm trying to think of a good explanation. Not referring to this property specifically, but like at a single unit.
Correct.
We've had people who've handed in rental permit applications for years that said they had 3 or 4 spots there. And you go there and you realize they don't have 3 or 4 spots there.
Correct.
But in the case of 16 and 18 South Court, those are grandfathered rentals as far as parking requirements. I don't know the specifics about...
I'm talking about the
But, yeah.
dimensions of the actual lined parking places.
No, and I think he might have actually a few more laid out than the 14. And I'm going by the drawings that Mr. Valentour's provided that will show that you can adequately fit 14 cars in that space. And if we have to make them restripe it, then that's what we'll look at, to say there's 14 back there. He may be squeezing 1 or 2 more in there than he should be. I don't know. I know I walked back there pre-Halloween and I didn't see anything that narrow, and I was looking, but I'm not saying there isn't. So it's something we would definitely look at. But according to the drawings, the plan that is presented, it will work for the 14 spaces, and that's what we're looking at here.
Right, it's a drawing that was presented.
Correct.
So what you're saying is whatever's happening back there right now is not really...
I don't know.
You would be going with
I don't know. We'd
this
have to
drawing
look.
here.
Yeah, I don't know if what's been presented and drawn is actually what's going on there or not. So.
And that can be a condition of the variance too, obviously.
But it does certainly appear from this sketch that some people wouldn't be able to get their cars out of here.
Yeah, you're packed in there, like sardines.
Maybe it's not trying to scale, but just looking at the sketch, I wouldn't want to be parked right there because I'd never get myself
Well,
out of
that's
there.
exactly what I'm saying. Went back there, there's a vehicle parked here, and
Right.
these two cars were blocked in.
Exactly.
So-
So you've got at least one, probably two for sure, that once they're in there, they're in there.
Well,
Are you looking
sounds like
at
a
the
question
same?
for the appellant's representative. Yeah,
Okay.
we're seeing that.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Eschenbacher? All right. Then the appellant, Representative, yes. And your name and address, please?
Good evening, John Valentour, RBC Architects, representing David Full. And I think all the things you've talked about so far are absolutely relevant in terms of how this would work. And the very first thing, when Mr. Full came to me, he asked me to go into this parking lot to try to find more spaces. And I went back there and told him there is no room for more spaces than there are currently listed, which is 14. At the rear of 18 and 14 South Court Street. Now, I don't know what plans exactly you have up there.
Well, we've got a little sketch.
The little one?
That's, I spoke out of line too, 'cause that's not the one I've seen either.
And I can see your difficulty, but in actuality, 14 spots do fit in there.
But will the cars fit into the spaces and
Yes,
come
they
back
do.
out?
This is, they're there right now, and each space is identified and marked with a spot.
And a car can go in?
They can get in and out, because I did.
Okay, and
in that
was
spot.
was it full when you tried to go into
Yes.
one of these inaccessible places?
They weren't inaccessible when you're right there in the space.
All right, so you're saying that you could get in and out of any and every one of these?
I think that there's 14 available parking spaces there right now, and that's what the
I
city...
don't believe they're laid out like what's on that drawing, are they, John?
Okay.
Pardon me?
They're not laid out like...
No, they're not laid out like this.
Are you guys like this parked here with these two cars here? And it's
All
like,
right.
how are they going to get out?
Okay.
Now, are they 100% 20 foot by 9 foot each space? I doubt that in terms of the actual area. But are they capable of having long-term storage parking that people can access and move around about in? Yes, they are. But I was not here tonight to dispute this right now, because I was assuming that 14 spots were available. That's what have been marked by the city as available at that spot. And I was asked originally to try to add more spots in this lot, and I came back and said, can't do.
All right, moving on from that issue, anything else you'd like to say?
Okay, thank you. And I think that the city has indicated that the purpose that we're here for tonight is the owner wishes to create a 4-bedroom apartment on 19 South Court Street. And do you guys have the drawing? The city plan?
We have the map. Yes, we do. We do.
And you can understand where 19 South Court Street is?
Yeah, we know where it is.
We've looked at it. I'm sure we've all been by it.
Okay, I know, right next to the annex for the city, or for the county building. And as was indicated and researched, I think, not by me, but by others, 12 spaces across the street, essentially, are allocated for parking that would be provided by, or for a different structure. The owner is willing to deed restrict 2 parking spaces that are not currently assigned to any specific apartment towards 19 South Court Street from that parking lot. as well as he does currently, and I think you might have a copy of a lease that he has with the City of Athens for 4 additional parking spots on a lot owned by the city, semi-adjacent to the City Hall. And really, the request that we're asking for here is that these leased parking spots be considered rather than deed restricted and owned by the property owner. Because we're modifying the use of the second floor, and I think that was indicated earlier, the existing apartment, which has no assigned parking spots, must also comply with current code. So that the total of parking spots required for this request is 6, not just 4 for the new apartment that is being planned on the second floor of this building. So with the 2 parking spots that are allocated across the street and the 4 that are asking to be deed restricted, the required number of parking spots would be provided.
So, yeah, but you've only got 2 deed restricted, and the others will simply be leased.
2 deed restricted and 4
leased.
Leased.
Right.
Correct.
And you do have a lease to show. So.
And the distance from the deed restricted, or the leased parking spots to the property would be about 520 feet.
So I'm assuming this lease is already in play?
That's correct. You should have a copy of the lease with your submission.
And does that mean that the apartment is already in use, or you're just paying
No construction has been done.
Lease in advance of?
Yeah, you're correct. The lease has been prepared in preparation for approval. It's not been executed yet until we can actually get approval to do the project.
So that would be $85 a month per space, or?
That's correct.
$85 a month per space?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
The lease is with the City of Athens.
The city changes.
Yeah.
That's right. The total sum of $85 per month.
And I may add that if you were to approve for leased parking, we were to determine that there are not room for 2 deeded parking. If you had to increase the number from 5 or to 5 or to 6, then that's something we can pursue at that direction. If you were to approve for 4, I guess 6 would logically sound like it would work too. So it's something we can look at that parking lot to verify that there are 14 true parking spaces back there.
You would make, I'm sorry, would you say, John?
If they were to go ahead and approve for 4 leased parking spaces, but then we found out there wasn't room for those other 2,
Then you would
have to get 6 leased.
That's fine. I feel confident, though, because I've been back there a lot and moved around. There is the capability of having 4 cars, or 14 cars back in that. I was trying to get 16. I couldn't do it. I could do 14, and that's what I told the owner. And that's when he had to go and find something else.
Any further questions for Mr. Valentour?
Well, I'm going to go through...
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to go through the practical, the findings, as the way I see them. Okay?
Fine.
If you don't mind. The practical difficulty, the property at 19 North Core Street does not have any associated parking. The building has adjoining firewalls and structures on both sides. The rear of the structure is also on the property line. So there's no room on this piece of property for anything besides the building. Exceptional circumstances. This property is unique in this zone in that the lot is very narrow. Even if the building were removed from the lot, parking would not be possible due to the restricted nature of the lot. Realistically, however, the situation is common for properties in this zone due to the high density of buildings. There's not really a lot of parking lots at this portion of Court Street. The preservation of property rights, the use of the second floor for residential use is an allowable use. Granting a variance will not confer on this property any special privilege other properties in the uptown zone do not have available. The minimum variance: the proposed parking spaces are within reasonable distance from the property. Using leased property or leased parking rather than ownership is not a request that actually alters the requirements for zoning. In the event the lease is not in place, the apartment will not be certified for occupancy by the city. The absence of detriment. The granting of this variance will not be a detriment to adjacent properties and will not impair the purpose of the zoning code or public interest. The Uptown District should have mixed use with business and residential together. The parking spots intended for use with this project are currently used for long-term parking, not shoppers or people involved with business in the uptown area. So we won't be taken away from people that want to use the uptown area for commerce by having these parking spots allocated for this purpose. Not of general nature. Many properties in the zone either have parking on-site, remote parking, apartments grandfathered with no parking, or are not required to have parking at all because they're business occupancies. Every situation is unique and the requirements vary based on the specific property characteristics and use, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you. Any further questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Valentour. There doesn't appear to be anyone left on the floor to speak in any way, so we'll forego that and close testimony from the floor to discuss the case, beginning with a motion.
I can take a motion.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Before you make it, should we consider if we want to build in the requirement that Mr. Eschenbacher was speaking?
We have to, I think.
Okay, so you're prepared to...
Yeah, I am ready to write
Okay,
it down.
all right, very good.
But he might have to correct my
Okay.
wording. Okay. In case 0925V, the property at 19 South Court Street, appellant David E. Full. I propose that we grant a variance from section 23.08.01D to allow the change of use of a building from one rental unit with 2 tenants to 2 rental units with a total of 6 tenants, to have 0 on-site parking spaces, 2 deed-restricted parking spaces within 250 feet of the property, and 4 leased parking spaces within 510 feet of the property, where 6 on-site parking spaces or 6 deed-restricted parking spaces in same ownership and within 250 feet of the property are the minimum requirements. And in the event that the City Code Office determines there is not space in the designated lot for the 2 deed-restricted parking spaces, then the appellant will lease the 2 additional places.
Inside the place of the leasing?
Yeah, I
So
had
we can-
originally that it would, well, would it matter where he leased them?
I think that protects the distance.
Maybe would have to come back, because then how many things would be spelled out?
It's up to you guys. I mean, you have in the past specified specific parking lots. On the other hand, depending on your opinion of whether you think 510 feet is excessive or acceptable, you can make that the condition, that it can't be any further than 510 feet away.
You've already said that.
Okay.
Did
So
I?
the question is,
Okay.
yes, you did. The question is whether you think that's acceptable.
Is that sufficient?
Sure. I've got in the event the code determines there's not enough room in the parking lot, the appellant will have to lease the 2 additional spaces. And you also want a condition...
I don't actually like that condition, that suddenly he would go from 4 lease spaces and, oh, well, there's not room, so we'll just lease all 6.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that.
Yeah, I know you didn't. I'm objecting to my colleagues.
Okay.
But we have to find out if there's
He
really
would have to
space in
come
that
back.
lot, don't we?
Well,
Yeah.
fine, then he would have to come back again. I don't like to say, oh, well, just go ahead and lease all of them then. you'd have to come back.
That seems reasonable, too.
Do you want to remove that condition then?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could do that.
Do you want to make a condition about where the four lease spaces are?
Well, since they've already presented us with a lease, why don't we just name that site?
Okay, let me see.
You know, wherever
It's
it
got a
is,
specific name
somewhere.
to it.
It's College Street Lot, wherever that is.
It's owned by the
13
city.
North
College
City
Street Lot is
Yeah.
what it's called.
Okay,
You can-
it's owned by
You
the
can
city.
specify the Athens.
It's spots number 31, 32, 33.
13 North College is the actual address of the parking lot.
Just put that
So you
in
can
there.
say that.
Yeah, he's got 4 spots specifically
Right.
indicated that he's got leased.
Yeah, we're just trying to phrase it so
I went
that's
and
the
looked at them
only
to make
space.
sure that they were actually really
We're just
there.
specifying that that's the lot.
So you want, with the
Not just
condition
lot,
that
I
they
wanna see
be,
spaces.
with the condition that the leased spaces be at 13 North College Street.
Numbers, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah.
31, 32, 33.
Well, I mean, if something should happen in the future where you can't get those 4 spots, but get 4 others.
Okay, 4 spots at 13 North College Street.
No, I think they should come back.
Okay. Someone to second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, considering the conditions, difficulty and hardship, would there be difficulty and hardship if we don't grant a variance?
Well, I guess the question is, are there some special conditions here that if we don't, that would compel us to say yes, because otherwise we would be creating the difficulty. So what are the special conditions here about this property?
Well, it's building is encompassing the whole lot, so there's no room for on-site parking.
Isn't that true of virtually every Court Street property?
For the most part, there are a few exceptions that have parking lots, more or less, or there are parking lots available. I guess I'm thinking of South Congress Street and parking lots back there.
Okay. I guess I just don't see anything very special about this particular property that
Are you
differentiates.
still on number 1 about hardships? Okay.
That we would create a hardship because, that there is some special condition here that's different from other properties that would warrant, that would say we are creating a difficulty because we are not giving it a variance. But I don't see what's so special. All those lots are small, and virtually every property is end to end on its lot. Maybe it's got something behind it, but virtually that's probably not really the same
Well,
property. It's
I just wondered the difference between hardship and exceptional circumstances.
well,
I think you.
I'm not talking exceptional circumstance. What's that first thing here?
First is hardship. First is
Okay,
hardship.
because of what?
Practical
Will there
difficulty
be a
of the
difficulty
property.
created by exceptional conditions pertaining to the property? So what are the exceptional conditions pertaining to this property?
Well, if I were on the board, I would say the fact that, like Ms. Kronansky said, there's no space for on-site parking.
I know, but it's a kind of a circular reasoning that we've been using for years. We have to grant special parking because the lot is too small to be used for what we want to use it for instead of what we can use it for. And so therefore we will say that there's something special about it. It's a circular kind of reasoning. The property
Yeah.
isn't big enough.
Well, there's
so we-
already an apartment there. It's already being used. They just want to expand their use.
Exactly.
Well, it's not illegal to have apartments, and this is...
No, I understand that. It's an allowed use.
So we're adding to our density.
Did we discuss that adequately?
Not necessarily, I just...
In a circular way.
Well, I would argue that the appellant can't proceed with his plans for the four-bedroom rental without a parking solution. So the hardship is to the property owner, and we have granted.
We have, but again, we're not really supposed to consider his financial situation. And so, in a sense, we're saying, well, he has 2. It would be better for him to have 6. I don't really care whether he makes more money or not.
I see your point.
So basically, but this is a conversion from a second floor a second floor that has a two-bedroom apartment
And they probably used to
a
have
business
professional-
office in the front.
And he's probably lost the business tenant, so now he can do something else with it, perhaps, if he has parking.
If he has parking, he
Right, so
can
it's
do
all
that.
about the parking. Sure.
But is the hardship inherent in the...
I mean, you could find another tenant for an office.
Yeah.
And then he probably wouldn't need any parking. There wouldn't even need this because this two-bedroom apartment is already grandfathered in.
Well, I'm sure he could make more money if he had somebody sleeping there rather than just occupying professional offices. And fewer people want to have professional offices uptown because there's no place to park. And because there's
The
nothing up
atmosphere.
there except,
Right.
An expansion of,
the campus.
correct.
Right.
So he just doesn't want to add one more person, he wants to add 4 people.
Right.
And that's even more. It could be 2
Well,
and 2.
But I guess we just really need to stick to, is there something exceptional, some exceptional condition here that if we don't give him the variance, it would cause some great difficulty?
No.
You've convinced me, no.
It seems clear that it would be
No, I'm
possible to take
serious.
either position on that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm
All right.
not trying to convince you, I'm trying to tell you what I think.
Well, not that you intentionally were trying to convince me, but in talking all that out, I think that we had multiple uses for that piece of property, and
So what's our next little thing that we have to
Well,
decide?
exceptional circumstances, are there any that apply to the property or its use that do not apply generally to properties in the same area? I guess we kind of addressed that when we addressed the first one, so you could argue it either way. 3, preservation of equal property rights. Would denying the variance deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same vicinity? And this, too, maybe you could argue either way because in certain cases we've made such a variance, granted variance requests on this issue.
That's true.
In others we have not.
Yes,
So-
that's absolutely true. In some cases, people have been forced to find parking lots to buy, and that there are not so many parking lots up there that everybody can rush out and buy one. But that has happened in some cases, and in some cases we have allowed people to lease spaces, and sometimes at considerable distance. But I wish that I hadn't voted to do that.
All right, so we're a little conflicted on that one as well.
Right.
Minimum variance is the requested variance, the minimum required to make possible the reasonable use of the property.
we might say no because there is reasonable use
being
without
used.
requesting. It's being used right now.
You could make that argument. Absence of detriment. Will granting this variance be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties or impair the purposes of the zoning code?
Probably not. I mean, the code does allow for residences above businesses, again, so long as they have parking. It seems to me that it's only fairly recently that we have allowed anybody to have leased parking off-site beyond 250 feet. Before that, it was like, okay, you
was
have
very
to have
difficult.
deed restricted, you have to have this and that, and then somehow we got to a place where parking was so tight, I guess, that and people proposed leasing the things that then we said, well, okay.
And I think it had more to do than what I must recall was that it was an empty shell of the second floor, and it was more, I know for me on that vote, it was more of a safety issue, that it continued to be empty, and, we allowed
We did allow
the renovation of that with sprinklers and everything.
The one a month or two ago?
No, this was
No,
a
this
year or
is
so
1 year
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
We allowed
And we went ahead and did that because it really was a serious safety issue in a lot of
Well,
ways.
one of the considerations for that was that the appearance would be upgraded, but personally, the appearance is not upgraded. Those hanging empty curtains looked
Well,
maybe...
but I think the question, if you have a vacant building,
over a non-vacant.
it's not a good use of the property to have it vacant and it's probably less safe. It's just not really tenable to keep a building vacant.
I believe this building is unoccupied on the second floor right now as well.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
But he has the potential to have 2 tenants.
Well, he has 2 tenants. It's not fully vacant. It has 2 tenants in it already, correct?
From what I've just been told, he has a license for 2, but he hasn't rented it out.
But that's
It's
his
currently
choice, isn't
empty.
it?
But that was his choice, okay.
Well, I don't know.
Well, because he
couldn't
didn't
find
really...
anybody.
Or he's looking to renovate it. It's in a condition where nobody wants to rent it. So if he's going to renovate,
Yeah, I
he
don't
wants
know
to
the-
do the whole thing.
I don't know the status as far as that goes.
All right. And not of a general nature, is this requested variance of such a general or recurring nature that the situation would be more reasonably handled by changing the law? And
Some case could be made, I think. Yeah.
it is becoming
Yeah.
rather frequent that we get these kinds of requests.
Well, it's because we talk about mixed use downtown, and certainly that has seemed to be a good thing, but now businesses are less and less there, and the mixture is less and less diverse. We have more and more we have a bedroom community there rather than a business district that has any vitality at all. So,
All
but
right.
this particular case is not going to change that, probably. So,
No, but maybe in the future we need to address that with whomever.
maybe Mr. Pesky is going to see about that.
Working on it.
All right. Any other comments or questions before we vote?
Do we have to vote?
We do have to vote, and we have to start on, I forget where I started. I think with you, John.
A vote yes.
I'm going to vote no.
And I'm going to vote no.
I'm going to vote no.
And I am voting yes. But it does not pass.
Well, yes.
It's denied.
No, you've got 3 yeses.
No.
You have 3 yeses.
I have 3 no's, I thought.
I have,
Who knows?
I have
No,
Ms.
no.
Carson, Ms.
Yes.
Hollow, and Ms. Strable voting no. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so it did not pass.
Yes.
So we have 3 no's?
Yes.
No.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The variance is denied. Our last business is to approve last month's minutes. If someone would move to
I
approve the
move
minutes.
that we approve last month's minutes.
And someone second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
I don't vote. I wasn't here.
Okay, the rest of us in favor?
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned at 8:14. Thank you.